bit. I've been with the TIE for 3 years as an environmental reporter, covering everything from conservation to renewable energy, and now I'm working on food and farming. So I've seen, I guess you could say, a shift in terms of greenwashing and marketing from companies focusing on their own operations to focusing on how to sell products to consumers that claim to help them reduce their carbon footprint. And I think this obsession with the carbon footprint has come at the cost of other ecological impacts, such as the impacts on air, water, and soil. For example, I was in 2008 covering the run-of-river issue in BC. It was a huge issue, big election issue, quite polarizing among environmentalists because there was the argument that this was fossil fuel-free energy, clean, green energy. Yet at the same time, these projects had clear environmental impacts on the streams and the ecosystems. I think that that's sort of a more nuanced question of greenwashing. Obviously, there are clear ones. I mean, you look at water bottles using 30% less plastic, or the one you mentioned about a low fuel Ferrari. I see other examples. For example, certifications like the Sustainable Forestry certifications, Marine Stewardship Council certifications that have been criticized for not, perhaps they aren't as green as they claim to be. For example, the Marine Stewardship Council is certifying sockeye salmon as being a sustainable type of seafood. Obviously, there are huge problems with the sockeye runs in BC. The problem with focusing on consumer choice when it comes to how to reduce your environmental impact is that these claims aren't scrutinized very closely by mainstream media because newspapers, of course, the business model is that they are a vehicle for advertising. And so there's not a great incentive to scrutinize the products that they're trying to sell to people. So how does the independent or non-mainstream media deal with greenwashing? Well, one is by closely examining the claims that they're making. Like I said, through the lens of not only what are the carbon impacts, but what are the impacts on soil, land, and water. The challenge, like Ken mentioned, is that it's harder to do investigative work in journalism because the funding just isn't there. It takes a long time to do investigative journalism, and you're not always producing content immediately, so that doesn't work very well in the 24-hour news cycle that we have now. So one of the things that the TIE has done is try to access funding from various foundations through a nonprofit arm in order to fund more in-depth investigative and solutions-oriented journalism. We also have the solutions and investigative journalism fellowships, which are actually funded by the public. Readers can donate to these fellowships, which allow a journalist to pursue a subject in depth and then do a 3 to 5 part series on those subjects. it's kind of a shift, I would say, from newspapers tend to be quite possessive and protective of their content, of getting the scoop, but new forms of journalism that are emerging, because there's so little funding out there, they have to work together now. So perhaps you have several news outlets funding one investigative series. ProPublica is a great site in the US, and they did this with the economic meltdown. The project I'm working on now is funded in part by a foundation. It's on food and farming in BC and Ontario, and what I'm trying to do is look at the solutions that are out there. And I think this is another way for new media and independent media to address greenwashing and address environmental issues, is to look at the solutions. What's working? What are people doing? Can these ideas be expanded and spread to other jurisdictions? Even if they, what are the policy solutions that could work, even if these policies aren't in place yet? Who's talking about them? Yeah, so these are just a few examples. Thank you.